welcome into a live edition of Dolphins Today. My name is Jake Riepma, and I am fired up to be with you, as always, on a live edition of Dolphins Today. And hopefully I'm not the first to wish you a very happy Valentine's Day, which was our poll question leading up to today's show, by the way. I love Valentine's Day. I'm a lover, not a fighter, so therefore any holiday that celebrates love, I'm all for. I will say this, though. I don't think you need all the bells and whistles and the giant balloons and the giant teddy bears. And, you don't have to make a statement of how much you love someone by actual physical gifts. And I'm a big proponent of showing love in other ways, right? That said, I did get my girl flowers because, that's kind of industry standard, if you will. But let me know down in the comments right away, is Valentine's Day a real holiday or not? Type yes or no. We like to have some fun on Dolphins Today. We're having fun, right? We always have fun when we welcome in the one and only today's producer, Jeremy Chugs. How the hell are you, man?
Oh.
You're wearing red. You obviously are a big Valentine's Day fan.
Oh, I'm a huge lover. Huge lover.
Well, you got two guys on this show that just pour their heart into this show, into the love they show, and into the love for their coworkers.
With that being said, me being a huge lover, I absolutely hate Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day sucks. You get flowers that you can get normally throughout the entire year, which are double the price.
Yeah.
You get chocolate, which you don't get to eat. You have to give it to whoever you're making love to, and they get to eat all the chocolate. And as a guy, you get nothing.
No, you really don't. Now, I will say this. My girlfriend's birthday's in January, so I get Christmas and then birthday immediately. By the time February rolls around, I'm like, babe, Valentine's Day, like I said, I'll get some flowers and, we'll spend some quality time together, but,
Sex again? I was really hoping for a PS5.
Oh, we're off and running on Dolphins Live, Dolphins Today Live.
Oh.
Who we got in the comments? I see Kristen Reinhardt's in the comments. Timon the Buckeye.
I got my biggest fan, Ralph Miller, in the comments.
Let's go, Ralph Miller. Oh, no, middle school hour. Yeah, it's middle school hour here. No doubt about it. So let me know, is Valentine's Day a real holiday or not?
We actually do have content that we're doing on today's show. Coming up, mock draft season? Full effect?
Oh, yeah, that's right. This is for Ralph because Ralph is a football guy. X's and O's all the time. So we're going to break down the latest Jake Riepma mock draft 2.0. I'm going to present to you my perfect Dolphins free agent plan. And oh, yeah, some trade candidates. And we are going to get wild with the Dolphins mailbag.
Yeah.
So don't worry. And you might notice, Jake, that looks like a beefier show than normal. That's right, because we love you and we care about you here on Dolphins Today. We're going with not one, not two, not three, but 4 segments on today's show. So buckle up, dial it in. We're going to have a hell of a time. How does that sound, Jeremy Chugs?
Sounds pretty good.
All right, we got to give a shout out to Obadiah Toy World. Am I saying that correctly? Obadiah Toy World, shout out to you, man.
Hey, and shout out to today's sponsor, Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. You know what Game Time's great for?
Everything,
but also if you didn't get
That's
a Valentine's present, last second shows, sporting events, all that over on the Game Time app, you can get $20 off when you use code FINSCHAT.
Do you have to make that noise too? No, for real though, $20 off using that promo code FINSCHAT for your first time using the Game Time app. It's the only app you'll ever need for all your live events, and that includes tickets to baseball games, football games, basketball games, concerts, comedy shows, you name it. If it's a live event, Game Time's got your back. Lowest price guaranteed, also specialize in last-minute ticket deals. And overall, they just take all of the stress out of buying tickets to an event because you can rest assured you're getting the lowest price guaranteed. And oh, by the way, tons of different convenient payment options as well. Easy to use app, high definition photo from your seats. None of these remedies or renderings, all good stuff on the Game Time app. So download the Game Time app today. Terms do apply. Use that promo code FINSCHAT because we love you and we care about you. That link goes right in the chat in the comments of today's video. So it's one click and you're there. Take the stress out of buying tickets. Use that Game Time app, and for $20 off, use that promo code FINSCHAT.
And something that we're going to talk to you about later in the show is Van Ginkel.
Oh, man. My guy, AVG, Andrew Van Ginkel.
I know a lot of Dolphins fans kind of fell in love with Van Ginkel.
That's me.
This
Hand
season.
up.
Do the Dolphins re-sign him, break the bank? I mean, he could be looking at a pretty decent contract going somewhere else. One of his coaches that he liked went up to Philadelphia. Could he follow him there? But what do you say, Riepma? Do you want the Dolphins to re-sign AVG?
Well, I don't want to give away an entire segment because we do have that perfect free agent plan coming up. But I'll give you a little teaser. I have ranked my top 4 most important free agents to re-sign. And as if you're a follower of the show, you know how much I love Andrew Van Ginkel. So you might guess that he's on that list, but where he's on that list might surprise you. But for me, it's a resounding yes. Absolutely. There is no doubt about it. You got to sign Andrew Van Ginkel. So, want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. If we got more people joining, come on in and stay a while. Really exciting announcements for the month of February. And if you were with us on our first live show from February, then you know somebody's going to go home with one of these bad boys. That's right. And, I would like to say you could just strap this helmet on and be ready to go, but it's for display purposes only. We don't want anyone getting a concussion. But this is our Hall of Fame raffle item. Jeremy Chuggs wants a piece of it. I got you, man. It looks good. I love it. I love it. Who wants that helmet? I love it. I love it. I love it. That's good stuff right there. All right. Also, for our February Venmo raffle, it's $20 to enter, and you can win a Dan Marino bobblehead. That's some good stuff right there. So go ahead and send in, just like we did all season during our watch parties. It's $20 to enter. That gets you one ticket into the raffle. Now, for the February MVP, we are going to create a custom Dolphins jersey, just like we did for the one and only Chad Jones, because that's the offseason February MVP. And good news, there's only been one super chat in the month of February. So there you go. The February MVP is very easy to obtain, and it's simply whoever super chats and Venmos the most for the month of February. And then that Hall of Fame helmet, we want to add stickers to it by sending in either a $50 Venmo or a $50 super chat. That will get your name on a sticker, and we'll put it right on the helmet.
You know what? Since it's Valentine's Day, can we do a little special?
Yeah, let's do a little special.
For today only.
Today only.
Today only. $10, you get on the helmet.
$10 super chat gets you on the helmet.
Sherry May, I might be a little stuck. I might have to wear this the entire show.
That wouldn't be bad.
It's okay. We're good.
And you know what? I left my stickers at my desk.
I can go get them.
Yeah, Chuggs will get them, stickers, and the black Sharpie, because we want to fill this helmet up with MVP stickers.
I'll go get those. Why don't you ask this question while I try to get this off?
That sounds like a great plan. Chuggs is working on getting the helmet off, and I want to shout out some cities right away. Where are you watching from? Chuggs, please tell me you're kidding. Oh, thank goodness he's got the helmet off. All right, shout out your city in the comments below. I want to know where you're watching from. And good news, Chuggs, in fact, has got the helmet off. All right. Yes. They should be near my desk or on the computer next to my desk. All right, and a Sharpie as well. All right, let's get some shout-outs going. Sherry May, shout out Sherry May, and where are we watching from? Obadiah Toy Woods, watching from Charleston, West Virginia. I believe that's the state capital, yes? Is the state capital of West Virginia Charleston? I know everybody cares, but in 4th grade, I went 50 out of 50 for state capitals in the state capital test. So there you go. Larry Thompson's watching from Myrtle Beach. Firefighter 841 from Wilton, Iowa. Kelly Hutchinson from Bradenton. And Sherry May from the Florida Space Coast. No doubt about it. 2 launches today. Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. 2 launches from Florida's Space Coast. There we go. And Ralph Miller is watching in Cortland, New York. Shout out to Ralph Miller watching in Cortland, New York. William Bonnie's watching in Cuba. M.O. Oh, boy. You know what I didn't get 50 out of 50 on was the state abbreviation test. Let's see. M.O. Is that... Hold on. It's either Montana or... M.I. is Michigan, so Missouri's got to be M.O. M.D. is Maryland. M.O. Oh, man, this is embarrassing. The state M.O. Perfect. Okay. The state abbreviation M.O. Is that? Missouri. I should have gone with my gut there. Thank you so much, Shugs. Missouri. All right, there we go. All right. Chugs, I was telling the audience I went 50 out of 50 on the state capital test. I don't know if I could name all 50 capitals now, but in 4th grade I sure could. H.S. Wallace is watching from the Bahamas.
No way I can name all the capitals. I haven't watched hockey in a minute.
The Washington Capitals, that is. There you go. What is the capital? Let's just do a random one. Capital... One, a lot of people get wrong. Capital, you were just in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. What's the capital of Las Vegas? It's not Sin City.
Alberta.
Oh, well, let me try that again. Capital of Nevada.
Oh.
That's on me because Las Vegas is not a state. Come on, Riepma. You're kidding me.
Nevada. Let me think.
Carson City, Nevada. It's Carson City.
Carson City.
There we go. Capital of Texas. You should know this one.
Oh, I do know this one. Houston.
No.
It's awesome.
There you go. All right, Ralph Miller's watching in Cortland, New York. And let's see, Mickle McCain's watching in Braselton, Georgia. Who else we got? Sherry May says, get it together, man. I think that's got to be for me, right? Or maybe Chugs, because you just had a helmet stuck on you.
Yeah, it's been a rough day so far.
Why has it been a rough day? Because you've had to work with me?
Yeah, I had to work with Riepma. Got the helmet stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Haven't gotten my Valentine's Day present. It's been rough.
It has been tough. It's been tough all the way. That's good stuff right there. Let me know where you're watching from. Shout it out in the comments. Absolutely. Welcome in. All right, we got a question from the boss.
James's laptop has other stuff on it. I don't know if I can say that on the stream.
No,
We were talking about James Hub earlier. I don't know if we can talk about that.
James has got to be the cleanest guy in the office. Yeah. I will say that. So, boss man comes in and says, Chug's laptop is disgusting. Is that true? I don't have any room to talk, though. Mine's pretty disgusting.
No, I would say it's a little dusty, a little old. Could use a little cleanup.
Yeah, look at this key right here, my N key.
But you see the difference is mine is so dirty because I'm always hard at work.
There you go.
This is clean because it's just never open.
Never used.
Yeah,
great point.
Never
great
used,
point.
Never dirty.
Yep, great point. All right, we want to give some helmet stickers away. We got a special deal.
Tim B said, how do you send money via Venmo to get on the helmet? Jake Riepma, actually, I have your, let me put it up, your Venmo.
Yes, it should, that's on me. It should be in there. Because we're going to do the Dan Marino.
Oh, wait, no, it is in there.
Yeah, the Dan Marino bobblehead is a Venmo-only giveaway. So there we go, $20 to enter that Dan Marino bobblehead giveaway.
Or if you want to double up, $20, you enter the Dan Marino giveaway and 2 helmet stickers today.
Look at that. So the deal of the day, $20 Venmo gets you into the Dan Marino bobblehead and the giveaway, and it gets your name on the helmet sticker for the Hall of Fame helmet giveaway at the end of the offseason, and it's $20. That's it.
I think Jake was rebooting there for a second. Like when you move your mouse too quick and you see like the circles going, that was real life what just happened to Jake.
I won't claim to be the smartest. What do they say? The sharpest pen in the drawer, sharpest tool in the shed.
That's probably not what they say, but
No,
let's keep it going.
Yeah, all right. Let's keep it going. Here we go. We're coming unhinged on Dolphins Today. How many likes on the video? Only 19. We got to get up to 20 likes. Come on. Who's going to be that 20th like?
If we don't get 20 likes, my wife won't touch me tonight. Hey, we got there.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Aren't
Jeremy.
you engaged to be married? Not quite married yet?
It's actually legal.
No.
We're doing
let's go. Chugs. Congrats,
Sorry,
man.
ladies. I'm off the market. I know all out of the 42 people watching right now, half of y'all are eligible young bachelors, but
They'd be bachelorettes, though, right? Unless you have something to tell.
bachelorettes. I am sorry. Kristen said, can we see the bobblehead again? Of course.
Yeah, the bobblehead is sick. I'm not going to lie. Because on the bottom of the bobblehead is the Dolphins Stadium. So it's not just a Dan Marino bobblehead.
That's cool. We need to bring that haircut's kind of come back, too.
Oh, yeah. A lot. If you look at today's youth, a lot of today's youth have that style haircut going.
It reminds me of almost like a more rugged Patrick Mahomes. Like if Patrick Mahomes wasn't such a pansy.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let me check the Venmos. None of them are coming in quite just yet. That's okay because, hey, we're trying to give away this awesome helmet, that Dan Marino bobblehead, and our February Hall of Fame for whoever super chats the most in the month of February. All right, we got a lot of segments to get to, though. So, Chugs, without further ado, shall we begin?
I think we shall. You ready to go?
Let's do it. First up is my mock draft in all 7 rounds 2.0. Let's do it. Hey, welcome in. We're going to get right into it. The NFL draft is quickly approaching. That means I've got my next installment of a mock draft for the Miami Dolphins 2.0. We're going all 7 rounds on this one. So buckle up, dial it in, fasten your seatbelts, and let's take a look at the Dolphins draft capital. And as it stands right now, unless Chris Grier and the front office decide to shake things up with maybe some trades, sending draft picks elsewhere, here's what the Dolphins will be working with when the NFL draft comes in April. Starting with the first round pick, they have the number 21st overall pick, and it is the first time in 3 years the Miami Dolphins will have a pick in the first round, so that is a welcome sight with open arms. Round 2, the Dolphins are picking 55th overall. That's the 23rd selection of the second round. Then jump to round 3 and 4. Unfortunately, no picks in either of those rounds. The third round pick forfeited from the tampering violation with Sean Payton and Tom Brady. Whoops! And round 4, that pick was traded to Denver, involved in the Bradley Chubb deal. Back on the board in round 5 and 2 and 6 and 1 and 7 for a grand total of 6 picks in 2024. Now, as we get you set for Dolphins draft coverage leading up to the NFL draft, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss a thing on Dolphins Today. We've got you covered from every single angle, and we're going to continue to implement these installments of mock drafts as we continue to progress. Because remember, the NFL Combine is coming up quickly, and a lot of things can change after the NFL Combine. We're going to stay close to Mel Kiper's big boards and everybody else's as well. So, that said, nothing's going to change as far as the Dolphins' position of need, so that's always an important conversation to have when you're including the draft conversation for the Dolphins. So I've identified these position groups as the most pressing for the Aqua and Orange. Starting first and foremost with that offensive line. We all know how banged up the Dolphins offensive line was in 2023. 12 different starting combinations in the regular season. That's a lot. It was musical chairs due to the injury bug. I think the Dolphins will need to improve at the linebacker and edge position as well. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, both with breakout years last year. However, both had their season end prematurely due to injury, and there's a lot of questions of when their return will take place. Obviously, not at the very beginning of the season, so building up the edge position, I think, is important. Still the question with Andrew Van Ginkel as well as he becomes a free agent. Wide receiver room, that's important because you have two of the top wide receivers in the NFL, but after that, it almost completely falls out. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle together combined for over 60% of the Dolphins' receiving yards in 2023. Got to add some depth for Tua to distribute the ball to. And to round it out, the defensive line could use some work. Zach Sealer and Christian Wilkins both had breakout seasons. Tremendous at the top of the defensive line, but not a lot of depth after that. And cornerback is an area of need, although given the change of the staff on the defensive side of the ball, you've got a new defensive coordinator in Anthony Weaver. We'll see if Cam Smith gets a shot. Now, without further ado, I have implemented my 2.0 mock draft with the Pro Football Focus simulator. So this is all based on realistic simulations. Who's available, who's not available, because I'd love to just take the best player. But PFF runs millions and millions and millions of possible draft outcomes. And here we go with the Dolphins' first pick in the first round, 21st overall. I've got the Miami Dolphins taking Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU, ranked number 4 in the Mel Kiper Big Board position group by wide receivers. Now, there are a ton of very talented wide receivers in this draft class, and a lot of people don't believe Brian Thomas will be available at 21. So in this case, with the simulation through PFF, the fact that he was available, I had my general manager hat on and thought, why not take a swing and draft a big play wide receiver like Brian Thomas Jr., 6'4", 205 pounds, a big target for Tua Tagovailoa, and immediately could have a positive impact on this Dolphins offense. You look at the stats there in 2023, 17 touchdowns. He can also be a deep ball threat. You pair this guy with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, look out. The Dolphins' aerial assault will be unstoppable, and I get it. I know. Pump the brakes. We got to address the offensive line, and we will. We still have 5 more picks, but if Brian Thomas Jr. is available at 21, you could talk me into taking him, obviously, as I did in this mock draft. So why not take Brian Thomas Jr. at 21? Let me know what you think. I want to hear from you in the comments. Give me your one-word reaction to the pick if the Dolphins, hypothetically, were to take Brian Thomas Jr. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think there's no chance the Dolphins won't pick anything other than an offensive lineman in that first round? Let your voice be heard. Get down in the comments. Now, in 2023, the reason I love the idea of bulking up that wide receiver room is because the Dolphins, Tua passed for a career high, 4,514 yards, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, yeah, they were responsible for 62% of the receiving production. So when you have two guys doing all the work, and we saw this down the stretch, teams defensively can game plan against that. Look at what Kansas City did, and Tyreek even had the touchdown in the wild card game, but that was their only production offensively. It takes 11 guys on the offense to put together a potent offense, and I think Brian Thomas Jr. gives you a chance to put together arguably one of the best passing offenses in the NFL, and if he's available at number 21, I like the idea of taking Brian Thomas Jr. Now, moving to the second round, here's where I address the offensive line. If you followed Dolphins Today, you know we've talked quite a bit about Christian Haynes. He was a guy that had a really good week at the Reese Senior Bowl, and so his stock continues to climb, and if he's available in the second round, because of how deep this offensive line draft class is, I expect him to be available with that 55th overall pick, and again, he becomes an immediate impact player for the Miami Dolphins, somebody that can make an impact on day one, and when you consider the injuries that this offensive line dealt with, there's a couple of question marks for the Dolphins as far as free agency on the offensive line. Connor Williams, Rob Hunt, Isaiah Wynn, the list goes on, Kendall Lamb, all guys that you're not sure are going to be back next year. This is a guy that I think think could step in and be a day one starter for the Miami Dolphins. Pro Football Focus graded him out better than an 80% as a grade. And again, it's a long list of draft prospects on the offensive line. If Christian Hayes is available in the second round, I love the idea of drafting him, and then he becomes an immediate impact player that can compete for a starting position because you're unsure whether Isaiah Wynn, Connor Williams, or Robert Hunt, that's center and both guards, if they'll be back with the Dolphins. And this could just be a way cheaper version to address some of those holes in the offensive line because as we've talked about at length, the Dolphins might have some cap casualties coming, and if Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Isaiah Wynn, any of those guys are cap casualties, look for Christian Hayes to step in and be a guy that can start from day one for the Miami Dolphins. That's why I love Miami drafting him in the second round with that 55th overall pick. Now, I told you I want to hear from you what you think. Let me know. You tell me down in the comments. What's the importance of the Dolphins drafting an O-line early in this draft? Because remember, no pick in round 3 or 4 as it stands right now. So if you don't get an offensive line in the first or second round, you're looking at not until the 5th round, potentially. Again, this could change with some trades. But let me know how important it is for the Dolphins to draft an offensive lineman in those first 2 rounds. Scale it for me, 1 through 10. Now, jump ahead to not the 3rd or the 4th because we know the Dolphins aren't picking that round, all the way to the 5th round. I like J.D. Bertrand out of Notre Dame. He's a safety. He was a team captain, a guy that plays in a lot of ways a very smart player, as his draft profile describes him as. He's also a leader on the field. And I don't think this is a guy that comes in as a 5th-round pick and you expect to compete for a starting job, but that secondary could use some depth. I mean, look at the injuries that the Dolphins secondary dealt with all season. You had Javon Holland go down, Deshaun Elliott, Brandon Jones. All these guys missed some time, and so a depth pick like J.D. Bertrand makes a lot of sense here. And you look at the numbers from 2023 at Notre Dame, he's a guy that could really help the Miami Dolphins as it relates to the defensive side of the football for the Miami Dolphins. That's why I really believe this is a good pick for the Dolphins in the 5th round because, again, you're not picking in the 3rd or the 4th. Now, coming up, we're going to continue to break down my mock draft, but first, I want to give a huge shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, Game Time, the only app you'll ever need to buy all your tickets to live events. I'm telling you, it takes all the stress out of buying tickets, and hey, here we are. And maybe you missed Valentine's Day for your girl. Oh, no. Don't worry. You can buy tickets to a live event using the Game Time app. So here we are. Baseball's on the way. Pitchers and catchers are reporting. We're in the midst of the NBA season, maybe the NHL season, whatever it is. You got to use the Game Time app. And because we love you and we care about you, we got $20 off when you use that promo code FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT. And we'll put that link right in the comments and description of today's video. It's Fins Chat for $20 off. You got to love it. It's the Game Time app that takes all the stress out of buying tickets to live events. It's the only ticketing app that you'll ever need, and that's why I use Game Time. So download the Game Time app today. Use promo code FINSCHAT when you create a new account. And for that $20 off, because we love you and we care about you, there we go. All right, moving on. And I like the idea of the Dolphins in the 6th round drafting Jaheim Bell because he's a projected 5th round pick. And if you're able to steal him in the 6th round, there's a lot of value there and a lot of upside with Jaheim Bell. Now, as a tight end, great ball skills, great receiving skills, struggles a little bit blocking. And sometimes, and again, some of these draft profiles are going to change drastically once we have the combine. But right now, Jaheim Bell being projected in the 5th round with this particular simulation by Pro Football Focus, he was still available in the 6th round. So I thought, why not grab him, especially at a position the Dolphins could use a boost. With the tight end position, Durham Smythe had an up-and-down season, was okay receiving the ball, but I do believe adding another dynamic tight end to that tight end room would add one more element to the Dolphins' ability to be a productive offense from the passing standpoint. So Jaheim Bell, the tight end, and you look at the 2023 numbers, very impressive season. And again, I think he would fit very well in this limited tight end depth chart so far, where the Dolphins didn't get a ton of production outside of Durham Smythe on a handful of games. Julian Hill, much better blocking, and Tyler Kroft, I don't expect to be back next season. So 39 receptions, 503 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 2023. If you look at his 2022 numbers, had a really good year for Florida State. That was his first year with Florida State after transferring from South Carolina. So Jaheim Bell, a guy that's on my board, and if he's available in the 6th round, go ahead and grab him. Now, Jasheen Davis is my next pick for the Miami Dolphins out of Wake Forest. The edge rusher is, his profile says he has great explosion, can accelerate low with power, relentless pursuit. I love that. And if you watch some of the videos from the Dolphins game against the Chiefs in the wild card, there was no pursuit, let alone a relentless pursuit. So that type of attitude, mindset on the defense, it'll be interesting to see if Anthony Weaver, the new defensive coordinator, implements that in the Dolphins. But right now, that mindset, that mentality is lacking from the Aqua and Orange. So Jasheen Davis, could help a lot in adding one more guy that's physically gifted, a little bit raw on the pass rushing side of things, could improve his arsenal of attacks from the pass rushing position. But as far as the stature, the make of Jasheen Davis, 6'3", 259 pounds, and a guy that put up pretty good numbers in 2023 for Wake Forest. If he's available, I like the idea as a late round pick, a day 3 pick for the Dolphins that can come in with the right attitude, the right mindset, and make a difference. Now, to the 7th round, last but certainly not least, last pick for the Dolphins, Josh Proctor, safety out of Ohio State. And Proctor, a guy, again, that doesn't necessarily wow you with some of his coverage skills, and as a safety, that might be a glaring weakness. But what I love about Josh Proctor is his eagerness to come downhill as a tackler, and he plays with a physical edge even though he plays in the secondary. And we've seen a lot of guys in the National Football League make a living off of being a blitzing safety that can come down and run support and really make an impact physically on the game. I mean, go back to Troy Polamalu, one of the best safeties in the history of the game. That's what he was known for. I think more recently you saw Brian Branch in Detroit be utilized as a blitzer quite a bit from the safety position. And I'm not saying Josh Proctor can do the same as a first-round pick and those types of guys, but I don't necessarily hate the fact that maybe he lacks in coverage a little bit when he can provide such a boost in run defense. And this is a 7th round pick, so we're not asking Josh Proctor to come in and be the defensive MVP from day one. We're asking him to be a depth player and help this Miami Dolphins defense out. So let's review. There are my 6 picks for the Miami Dolphins, and you got to love Pro Football Focus giving me an individual grade. So those are Pro Football Focus's grades, not mine. My Brian Thomas Jr., go back to the first round, wide receiver pick, got a B+. Yeah, Pro Football Focus loved my Christian Haynes pick, and why wouldn't they? A-, tremendous value there in the 2nd round. J.D. Bertrand out of Notre Dame, the linebacker. Pro Football Focus didn't hate that pick. I'll take a B. B, why not? Jaheim Bell, B+. I think the tight end's an area of need for the Dolphins. And again, with Jaheim Bell being projected as a 5th round pick, if he's there in the 6th round, why not? Jasheen Davis, also a 6th round pick. Yeah, they didn't love that one. C+, it looks like my report card in college. Josh Proctor, same, a C+. But overall, a B+. I think my first mock draft 1.0 got an A-, so I'm getting a little bit worse. And that's just Pro Football Focus's opinion. So I want to know the real one's opinions. Who cares what Pro Football Focus says? Get out your red pens. Let me know what you think. Grade my mock draft. A, B, C, or D, or F if you think it was that bad. Chugs, let's show them one more time our picks just to review it. That way everybody knows when they got their red pen out there. Pro Football Focus gave me a B+. Boo, I think I get an A+. Brian Thomas Jr. in the 1st round. Christian Haynes in the 2nd. Jump up to the 5th round with the 155th pick overall. There you got J.D. Bertrand. And in the 6th round, Jaheim Bell, Jasheen Davis, and last but certainly not least, Josh Proctor out of Ohio State. Let me know what you think. And if you really love the Miami Dolphins, you got to prove it. Subscribe to the channel because we're doing this every single week. Every single day we're bringing you Dolphins content, latest draft news, free agency news, you name it. We've got you covered on Dolphins Today.
Tim!
Tim B!
Tim!
Woo!
Tim! He said, put me on the helmet. How can we convince Dolphins owner to go permanently to the throwback jerseys? We're 9-3 when we wore them Plus, it was voted as the #1 style
Yeah.
in the National Football League. Riepma, thoughts?
Okay, Tim B, I love the super chat because I'm going to save it because I tried to do not an entire show, but I did a lengthy segment on the Dolphins uniforms, and I got ripped to shreds on the comments. Maybe that's just a me problem, but a lot of people, we don't care what uniforms the Dolphins wear. We just want them to win. Yeah, that's fine. But the Dolphins throwbacks are the best jerseys in the NFL. There was guys on Pro Football Focus, Football Talk saying they got
with the top jerseys ever.
Yeah, they got to wear them every down.
I think of those. I think of the Eagles Kelly Green.
Yep.
I really like the old Chargers powder blue
Yep.
as well. I think the Saints when they go blackout.
I like the
really
Saints
good.
all whites with the gold helmet. I like the Niners all white with the gold helmet. But the Dolphins throwbacks, tough to beat. I will say, too, this was kind of fun, and you'll appreciate this as a Texans guy. I thought it was ridiculous when the Titans wore the Houston Oilers throwbacks. But as a jersey, just as a jersey, those ones are on my list as some of the best.
I mean, the fact that the NFL continues to play this game with the Titans, letting them wear those throwbacks, and the University of Houston wore the We Love the Blues jerseys. It was a powder blue jersey that the University of Houston wore, and the NFL sent them a cease and desist.
That's ridiculous. Unbelievable. But here's what's awesome. Tim B, first sticker on the helmet. There we go. It's Tim B, folks, and that's going to look good right there.
Tim.
I should try to do it in front of the camera. Let me work on that. There it is, baby. Tim B.
Tim, the Dolphins guy.
Tim B. There you go. You're on the helmet, man. Shout out Tim B.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to be next? All it takes is a $10 super chat. And good news, Kristen Reinhardt is in the drawing on Venmo for the Dan Marino.
Oh!
The Dan Marino
and she gets a
bobblehead.
helmet.
That's right. A
And she gets
$20
on the helmet.
Venmo.
Kristen.
Now the stick. Kristen, I will say this, and let me know in the chat. The stickers are obviously they're helmet stickers, so there's not a ton of real estate to work with on the.
I would just go KR.
Yeah, I'll do KR. How about that? There we go. KR, we know that's Kristen Reinhardt. Good stuff there.
And then just checking with you, Riepma. This is correct right here?
Yes, that is correct. Kristen.
Let's go.
Oh, you got to love it. That's awesome stuff there.
Let me know down in the comments section, either NFL or college football, your favorite jersey right now.
Ooh, that's a great question.
I personally, for one, I like some of the old school ones,
Okay.
but I hate Alabama's jersey. Maybe it's because I don't like Alabama.
Yeah.
Their jerseys are so boring.
I feel that way about Penn State, and maybe it's because I don't like Penn State, but it's just a blue and a white jersey, and it's like, they're so classic.
It looks like the generic jersey that you would find in like a teenage football movie.
Yeah, like East Bay catalog or something.
Yes.
If people are old enough to remember East Bay. Did you ever use the East Bay catalog?
Yeah.
No, my brothers and I had a Mount Rushmore of college football jerseys snake draft one night at a bar, and obviously there's a lot of liquid creativity helping encourage this, but I love USC's jerseys. Those are classic.
I like that. I mean,
there's nothing special about them.
Do you go with chalk and go Oregon?
Yeah, but you have to. The rule was you had to name a specific one, so it had to be like the.
I like the Oregon. The green with the yellow on the
shoulders,
on the shoulder pads.
Like when they use the old school, like almost mighty or cartoon duck logo. Yeah. Big fan of that one.
Kristen says the Seahawks highlighter jersey.
Oh no, Kristen, I love you, but those are my least favorite.
I don't mind
No,
them.
I can't stand those. Those are so bad. So bad. Those are brutal.
Somebody said the throwback Dallas Cowboys jersey is the one with the blue star.
Yeah,
like the stars right here.
I guess
the white helmet.
they're classic, but I don't love them. I like from the college football ranks. I like the University of Tennessee's. I just think that color pops. It's that tangerine, almost creamsicle orange, and when the whole stadium is decked out in Tennessee orange, you got the checkerboard end zones. The U?
The used jerseys are nice.
No.
The used jerseys are nice.
I like the original
Okay,
Miami jerseys.
rank these 1, 2, and 3. University of Miami,
Okay.
University of Florida, Florida State.
Florida is 1, Florida State 2, and Miami a distant 3.
You don't like those jerseys?
No, I like from my childhood like the Miami teams with, you know, like Willis McGahee, Ken Dorsey, and Ed Reed and Jeremy Shockey. Those uniforms were sweet with just the white helmet, the big U logo. But I don't like now they try to like modernize it too much. They have the black uniforms and they have a lot of stuff going on. I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, the old school Chargers unis were nice too.
Yeah.
Those were nice. All right, we're going to get into our next segment talking about some free agents.
Ooh.
What?
Who could it be? Who could it be? Let me make sure I'm in the right spot on my script here, Chugs. I don't want to lose any of it. And yes, we've got free agents to talk about. We sure do. All right, mock draft is in the books.
You bet your bottom dollar.
Yeehaw! It's time for... Oh, I'm in the wrong one. There we go. All right. Let's do it, free agents. Welcome in. It's time to talk about the Miami Dolphins free agents and my perfect free agent plan. I know Chris Grier in the front office, they watch every day. So, hey, I've made your life easy. This is what the Dolphins need to do as it relates to free agents now that the Super Bowl is officially in the books. And here we go. Everybody's O&O. So the Dolphins have more free agents than this, but here's kind of my top 10 list, if you will, and who we're going to focus on today. A lot of big names on that list as far as free agency goes. And in my humble opinion, pretty easy to identify who are the must-haves and who are the people you want as your free agents. Now, with that said, moving forward, let's look at today's video like a top 4 most important free agents for the Miami Dolphins to figure out how to re-sign in 2024. And again, they're trying to figure out how to re-sign these free agents because the Dolphins are going to be in a tough spot when the new league year starts in March of 2024, projected to be about $50 million in the hole for the salary cap per the NFL rules, so they'd be over the cap. But hey, that's what Chris Grier and the front office get paid to do. Lots of ways to restructure, lots of ways to manipulate the cap on down. I think they'll be just fine. So first and foremost, must re-sign free agents. I teased this one a little bit, but number one, unequivocally, the most important Dolphins free agent that needs to be back in the aqua and orange next year is Andrew Van Ginkel. Now, the stats tell a big part of the story as you look at the production from Andrew Van Ginkel over the course of the 2023 season. 69 tackles, 8 of them for loss. He had the 6 sacks and 1 interception. Now, also what's important to note from that 1 interception he took back to the house, but also such a versatile defender and could be used in a lot of different ways. And remind you, this is a Dolphins team that was 3rd in the NFL in sacks, got a lot of production from the defensive line. Van Ginkel was a part of that, but he also fit into Vic Fangio's scheme so well as a versatile athlete. Now, I know, Anthony Weaver, new defensive coordinator. It'll be interesting to see how he implements Andrew Van Ginkel. But you look at Pro Football Focus and their rankings of Andrew Van Ginkel, categorizing him as an edge rusher. For him to be the 8th best edge rusher in the National Football League tells you a lot. And I know Pro Football Focus, it's just a barometer. It's one more benchmark. It's not the end-all, be-all, but they grade every single player. And for Andrew Van Ginkel to register a 91 overall grade, that's insane. This guy made plays all season long, was one of the most consistent players on the Dolphins defense, and you stack him up against other top 10 edge players per Pro Football Focus, there are some names on this list. Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year. Nick Bosa, highest paid defensive player in the NFL. Obviously, Micah Parsons, Max Crosby, TJ Watt. Those are iconic players. And Andrew Van Ginkel is being mentioned in the same breath as them. Continue on, Khalil Mack, Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions had a breakout year in year 2. And right there is Andrew Van Ginkel ahead of DeMarcus Lawrence, ahead of Alex Highsmith. And it's a guy that adds so much value to your defense. That's why I've identified him as the most important part of the Dolphins free agency plans. And with him having Drew Rosenhaus as his agent. He's a very well-known agent in the National Football League and had some comments earlier this offseason. The latest with Andrews, we feel good about the season that he had. He's going to be ready for the offseason. We're excited about the possibility of him coming back to the Dolphins, although he's a free agent, so anything's a possibility. We'll just have to see as we get closer to March 13th, which is the first day of free agency. So Rosenhaus, as any good agent would, kind of, talking out of both sides of his mouth. We'd love for him to be back in Miami, but we'll see what happens type of thing. But I want to know from you, do you think the Dolphins should re-sign? Do you want the Dolphins to re-sign AVG? I'm a resounding yes. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Yes or no. Do you want the Dolphins to re-sign Andrew Van Ginkel? Now, what that looks like, here's kind of the double-edged sword with Andrew Van Ginkel playing as well as he has. We know the Dolphins are expected to be in the hole about $50 million salary cap-wise. In order to pay Andrew Van Ginkel as one of the top edge rushers, which we just showed you, he's in the same conversation as these guys of Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, Khalil Mack. These guys are making pretty big money, and I don't think Andrew Van Ginkel is quite at that level to be 5 years, $170 million like Bosa, or 4 years, $112 million like TJ Watt. Certainly not a 6-year deal like Khalil Mack has. But it's a guy that you expect to bring home the bacon in terms of contract numbers when he's a free agent and had a breakout year in his contract year. And regardless of what the price tag is, I know Drew Rosenhaus' agent is going to maximize the price tag for Andrew Van Ginkel in free agency. That's what agents do. But I still have AVG as my most important free agent signing. I think you can get it done for maybe something close to 3-year, $80 million, and that's a pretty expensive price to pay for Andrew Van Ginkel, but the production is there. It qualifies for a guy that I would be willing to put a lot of money on the table for in Andrew Van Ginkel because he helps this Dolphins defense. Next, Christian Wilkins. We've had this conversation before because, again, a guy in a contract here having a breakout season. Career high, 9.5 sacks in 2023. He was an absolute menace at the defensive tackle position. If you watched any of the Hard Knocks episodes, you know he's a vocal leader for this team as well. And these are all great things, but they are also things that are going to yield a higher price tag for Christian Wilkins in free agency. And one really interesting part about Christian Wilkins was the durability, the availability. He played in all 17 games this season, and that's a value add in and of itself because the Dolphins had struggled to stay healthy so much in 2023. Coming off a career year of 9.5 sacks, impressive stuff there. Christian Wilkins is my second most important free agent for the Dolphins to sign. You also have to think about the draft in this because there are positions of need for the Dolphins, but positions that perhaps can be rebuilt through the offensive line, or rebuilt through the draft, I should say, like the offensive line. There you go. I just gave you the punchline. The offensive line, I think you can build through the draft. But Christian Wilkins' production speaks for itself. 10 tackles for loss, always putting pressure on the quarterback. The 17 games that he played in, all 17, really stuck out to me because he is such an important component to the Dolphins' defense and a leader in the locker room, which I think is really, really important. And so when you look at what the elite defensive tackles are being paid, market value is likely to dictate anywhere from $22 to $25 million a year, and that's another expensive price to pay. And so while I'm providing the perfect free agency plan, there's also a conversation to be had about some of those cap casualties that are going to inevitably ensue because you're not able to pay anyone. And like Andrew Van Ginkel, I would classify Christian Wilkins as an elite defensive tackle. And you look at what the market has dictated for elite defensive tackles in years past. Quinnen Williams for the Jets got 4 years, $96 million contract. Javon Hargrave for the Niners, 4-year, $81 million contract. And I don't know if Christian Wilkins quite deserves that amount of money, if it yields that expensive of a price tag. But there's, of course, a conversation to be had about how crucial Christian Wilkins was to the success of the Dolphins defense. Therefore, I think Chris Grier and company should lay the money down for Christian Wilkins, just like I believe they should for Andrew Van Ginkel. Now, today's show is presented by Game Time, far and away the easiest and best ticketing app, the only ticketing app you'll ever need. Super easy to use interface, multiple payment options, and oh, by the way, they guarantee the lowest price possible and up to tickets last minute, which is awesome if you're a procrastinator like myself. And because we love you and we care about you, we're giving you $20 off when you use that promo code FINSCHAT. That's PHINSCHAT, FINSCHAT. And we'll put it in the chat and the comments and description of today's video. So it's real easy. Download the Game Time app. Use that promo code FINSCHAT and do something nice for yourself. Go to a game and take the stress out of buying tickets. You can also work for Miami Heat. Maybe you want to go to a comedy show or a concert. Lots of good things. And all you got to do is download the Game Time app. Terms to apply. Use that promo code FINSCHAT, and we will get you there with the lowest price guaranteed. Download the Game Time app. The lowest price guaranteed. Take the stress out of buying tickets using Game Time. And now we move to the offensive line. And remember at the beginning of the video, I showed you all those free agents. So I still am going to prioritize re-signing Connor Williams, but he's not the most important free agent. That belongs to Andrew Van Ginkel, followed by Christian Wilkins. And now let's talk Connor Williams, because he is in the top 4 for me, because this Dolphins offensive line certainly benefited from the play of Connor Williams when he was healthy before he tore the ACL on Monday Night Football against the Tennessee Titans. And he was one of several notable injuries on the offensive line, because we know they used 12 different starting rotations all season long. That's a lot. And one area as a unit collectively the Dolphins struggled in was pass block win rate, in which they ranked 31st out of 32 teams. So not good. And you pull up the depth chart of who will be back in 2024. A lot of question marks, starting with the interior. Connor Williams at center, Robert Hunt at right guard, and Isaiah Wynn, all free agents. And of those three, I really prioritize the importance of bringing Connor Williams back. And I think the numbers dictate that type of mentality as well, because you look at the 2023 Pro Football Focus grades for Connor Williams. He played 497 snaps, only allowed 1 sack, and penalties-wise, he was relatively clean. Of those 497 snaps, 7 penalties. Overall grade of 86.5. For a while, he was the top-rated center according to Pro Football Focus. Obviously, he gets injured, and his season is derailed due to an injury and a torn ACL. But you look at the production, it was far and away the best season of Connor Williams' career. Funny how that continues to work. Guys on a contract year seem to play their best, but he's a guy that I would prioritize the Dolphins bringing back through free agency and not letting getting away. Now, if the conversation becomes you can only pay 2 of these guys, I've identified my top 2, but Connor Williams still very high on the list for me, because when you look at what the Dolphins did without Connor Williams compared to what they did with Connor Williams, they're a totally different team when Connor Williams is in the lineup. Connor Williams, as the center, provided the ability to benefit this Dolphins offense, and I think he and Tua had that chemistry to really put their best foot forward when he was on the field. So 9 games with Connor Williams at center. With him, they were 7-2. Without him, they were 4-5. That tells you just about everything you need to know. And there's more to it. Obviously, the win-loss record is important, but in general, the Dolphins offense much better with Connor Williams in the lineup. In fact, they scored 34 points per game with Connor Williams. Without him, just 22.9. Now, continuing on, those are my top 3. Let's round it out with my top 4. And oh yeah, we're still talking offensive line. Rob Hunt takes that 4th and final spot for my 4 must-sign free agents for the Miami Dolphins. Robert Hunt is a guy that adds depth to this offensive line. And if you're able to re-sign 2 of these guys, combined with maybe drafting 1 or 2 offensive line, I think you feel a whole hell of a lot better where this Dolphins offensive line is in 2024 than in 2023. Obviously, injuries are a part of the game. We saw that in 2023 with the offensive line being decimated by injuries to the tune of 12 different starting rotations. But Rob Hunt is a guy that adds a cohesiveness to the offensive line. The rest of the team loves him and played relatively clean as well. Just the 2 penalties in 547 snaps. only allowed 1 sack, and that Pro Football Focus grade not quite as good as Connor Williams, but a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison with Rob Hunt playing guard. And according to Pro Football Focus, he's the number 6 overall guard. And that says a lot about what he brings to the table, not just as an offensive lineman, but again, a leader on the offensive line, that chemistry, that cohesiveness, a guy that I think you want in the aqua and orange. And anytime you talk about having to re-sign players, the cap casualties, it's difficult to prioritize who means the most to the Dolphins team, but that's also why they say the NFL is strictly business. So if you had to pick one of the 2 offensive linemen I talked about, let me know down in the comments. Is it Connor Williams or Robert Hunt? Or maybe you're fine with letting both of them walk and you want to just stick to the draft. Go ahead and type DOL for draft and O lineman, and otherwise RH for Robert Hunt or CW for Connor Williams. I do think this draft class is exceptionally deep, and there are immediate impact players available probably through the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. Obviously, the Dolphins don't have a 3rd-round pick yet, unless Chris Grier is able to trade for one. But that said, I do think drafting an offensive lineman in either the 1st or 2nd round would benefit this team greatly. That's why I don't have Connor Williams or Rob Hunt ahead of Andrew Van Ginkel or the other free agent, as so important to the Dolphins on the defensive side that they have to re-sign in Christian Wilkins. Now, let me know down in the comments what you think. Also, while you're at it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We want to continue to grow this Dolphins platform. And when you subscribe, you've got awesome opportunities in the month of February to win free giveaways. And oh, by the way, daily Dolphins content. Even though it's the offseason, we keep the foot on the gas here on Dolphins Today. Tugs! Woo-wee! All right.
So you're saying draft here, right? Or you're saying...
I think I would say draft if it gets to the conversation where one of these 2 would prevent you from signing Christian Wilkins and or Andrew Van Ginkel, because I think both those guys are going to be pretty close to max deals. And given the Dolphins' salary cap situation, I don't think it's just not going to be feasible to have the ability to. I would love everybody. I'd love Connor Williams, and there's no doubt about it. He's very important to the team. Same with Robert Hunt. But prioritizing the position group as a whole, I think it's more feasible to build through the draft on the offensive line side of things than it is defensive line or edge.
I'm a former fatty on the offensive line, so I'm big on offensive line.
Yes, we love it.
If I'm fixing the Dolphins offensive line, this is what I'm doing. I'm going out and I'm signing a little bit of a cheaper name at center than Connor Williams in one Tyler Biadasz. Maybe 2 times in a row, stealing the Cowboys center and taking him over. And then in the 1st round, I'm really hoping he falls in the draft. Fatanu out of Washington. You get the interior offensive lineman.
Yep, Troy Fatanu. He's been mocked to the Dolphins a couple of times, but you're right. I don't know if he's going to fall all the way to 21.
And then you spend that money on, I'm a little bit different than you. I would go Christian Wilkins over AVG just because you already have Chubb, you already have Jalen Phillips. I know they've been injured. I would take him, or I would take Wilkins over AVG. Biadasz, you have Fatanu there at the guard position. Maybe you re-sign Isaiah Wynn instead to a cheaper contract.
Deal, right.
Keep the continuity going there. But that's what I would do personally.
Yeah, another one, Jackson Powers-Johnson. A, great name for an offensive lineman. B, he could be available. He's the guard and or center out of Oregon.
Randomly getting 1st-round hype now. Like, was a consensus 2nd, 3rd-round pick.
It's got to be the name, right?
A month ago.
I think GMs just want to have an offensive lineman named Jackson Powers.
He showed up big time at the Senior
Bowl. Right.
So I think that could be a good name as well, Jackson Powers-Johnson. But I mean, rookie centers usually have a harder time. And if the Dolphins are trying to win now, I would much rather re-sign Connor Williams or sign Tyler Biadasz than try to get a rookie center, because more times than not, the center position is maybe one of the toughest offensive line positions to kind of adjust, because the jump from defensive tackles in college football to defensive tackles in the NFL is a very wide gap. And having to deal with that while also focusing on your snaps, making sure that you're not rolling the ball back there when you've
Right.
got a 350-pound dude.
Game moves a little bit faster too. So
a little bit, yeah. So that's why I'm saying, like, I would rather draft a guard. Because I think guards first year tend to do a lot better than centers first year. I mean, we look at a couple of guys who, they're good now, but Creed Humphrey, who's one of the best centers, somewhat struggled a little bit in his first season. Tyler Linderbaum as well, good now, but struggled a little bit in his first year. I just worry if the Dolphins are really trying to maximize that window, which they kind of have pushed all their chips in with the moves that they made last offseason.
Right.
Getting Ramsey, getting Tyreek Hill, getting all these big
Bradley
guys.
Chubb, yep.
Bradley Chubb as well. You want to set yourself up to win this year, not win in 2 years.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And a lot of good comments here. Wouldn't surprise me if AVG goes to Philly with Fangio. Yeah, and it's interesting because I always saw when Vic Fangio left the Dolphins was how much players didn't like him. But there were we showed you those comments from Drew Rosenhaus, AVG's agent, and AVG was a guy that spoke highly of Vic Fangio. So even though a lot of the Dolphins players didn't like Vic Fangio, I think AVG not only liked Fangio, but also played his best football under Fangio.
And just a reminder, we did have 2 people enter our Hall of Fame helmet, $10
Yeah.
today to get on the Hall of Fame helmet. Oh, that beauty. Love it. I mean, did you ever play football with helmet stickers? I never was a helmet sticker.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because both of my high school coach and my college coach were as old school as it gets, and they didn't want anything to take away from the team and draw attention on the individual, so they were both anti-helmet sticker.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I recognize that. That's what I was saying. He started a little slow, Creed Humphrey, but also you have to admit, when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes that can evade the rush and be able to throw the ball away, he's going to make most offensive linemen look good. But, no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a fickle beast, Mark. When you draft a center, it's a tough transition period, but I don't know. I don't know if Jackson Powers-Johnson can be like Creed Humphrey and adjust that quickly.
One thing I like about Jackson Powers-Johnson is the versatility position-wise, because a lot of the draft experts, the scouts are saying left guard, right guard, center. You find a place on the offensive line that has a hole, he can fit that hole.
Yeah.
And that's not the case with a lot of these prospects. And I think the Dolphins are a good example of that with 12 different starting combinations. There were times Eichenberg, and I know Eichenberg isn't everybody's favorite player, but he had to play left guard. He had to play center. There were times where it was either Robert Hunt right guard or left guard, and so on and so forth. Your point being, you're mixing at those different positions on the offensive line, so versatility helps you.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get into this next segment. We're talking trade candidates. Reminder, our last segment today is going to be a mailbag, so 2 ways to get on. You can either super chat like Tim B. He's going to be starting off our mailbag with that super chat, or you can use hashtag Dolphins in the comment section. I've seen a couple questions rolling through already on today's show from Sherry May and Anthony Manzano. Anybody else who wants to get on the mailbag, ask a question and you literally just type hashtag Dolphins in your question. That way I'm able to pull it up and we'll be able to put you on the show for our mailbag to end today's live show.
It's the true use of the hashtag. Hashtag. Do the youth still do that? Hashtag.
Hope you brought your Costco card.
Ooh. Did you know that was the original intention of hashtags, was just to be a clickable link? It still is, but the true definition of a hashtag, it's not like some catchy saying, or it's just so you can use that clickable link as a search tactic on social media platforms. Thanks, Jake. Really interesting stuff. Yawn, sleep, boring. Let's talk trade targets.
I wasn't ready.
You wasn't ready.
All right, now I'm ready.
I love you guys. Hey, it's time to talk some Miami Dolphins trade targets and whether or not the Miami Dolphins and Chris Grier and the brain trust that is Dolphins Brass should explore this offseason trade market, because a lot of talk of where the Dolphins are salary cap-wise when the new league year starts in March, a lot of talk about free agency, a lot of talk about the draft, and we would be neglecting one important component of the offseason if we didn't include some trade targets. So buckle up, dial it in. Here are some trade targets to keep your eye on. First, beginning on the offensive line, because how many times have we said this repeatedly at this point? The Dolphins' offensive line could use some help. And Laken Tomlinson, a well-traveled NFL veteran, may be available via trade. Now, it will be a little tricky with the Jets being in the same division as the Miami Dolphins, but this is a fellow that was drafted out of Duke, and a lot of times when he was drafted, people would say, you're going to draft a guard out of Duke, it better be a basketball player. That's good stuff right there, right? I kid. But in 2023, he played pretty well for the Jets, played in 16 out of the 17 games, allowed 7 sacks. And again, it's a well-traveled guy that was originally drafted by the Lions and has worked his way around the NFL, and somebody that brings a veteran presence. He also played in San Francisco from 2017 to 2021 under, guess who, as the offensive coordinator and the run game coordinator. That's right, Mike McDaniel. So there's some continuity there. Obviously, Mike McDaniel knows what Laken Tomlinson can bring to the table from an evaluation perspective. There's some familiarity there. So when you look at this Dolphins offensive line depth chart, a lot of question marks, a lot of free agency, pending free agents, I should say. So maybe on the interior component of the offensive line, Laken Tomlinson fits in nicely there, but again, a little bit tricky given the fact that Laken Tomlinson plays for the New York Jets, who are also in the AFC East. And anytime you're working through a trade within the division, it just adds one more extra layer to it because you're working in the negotiations with a team you're going to be playing twice a year. So they don't want to help you, we don't want to help them, and so on and so forth. But if you think of available offensive line assets on the trade market, I would put Laken Tomlinson at the top of that list and somebody the Dolphins should at least have a conversation with about potentially pursuing. Now, similar to the offensive line, this tight end room could use an upgrade. And no disrespect to Durham Smythe, but I think the idea of trading for another tight end to either pair or replace Durham Smythe as the primary pass catcher makes a lot of sense. Welcome in Dawson Knox, apparently expected to be available on the trade market. And stop me if you've heard this one before, though. Trading with a team in the division could be tough, but Dawson Knox really burst onto the scene early in his career. Some of his best years were early on. 2021 breakout year with the 9 touchdowns and 49 receptions. Slowed things down a little bit the last 2 years, and some of that is because of the emergence of Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. Dawson Knox all of a sudden wasn't the primary tight end target in 2023, but I think he still has a lot of gas left in the tank. And this is a Dolphins tight end room. Durham Smythe, it doesn't really wow you. Julian Hill, a very good run blocker, but not necessarily a dynamic pass-catching receiver. And think of the possibilities of adding a dynamic pass-catching tight end like Dawson Knox to this Dolphins tight end room, and in particular the offense that Tua led the NFL in passing yards in 2023, with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill accounting for over 60% of the receiving yardage. So you add Dawson Knox to the tight end room via the trade, and I think that is a way to boost the overall offense and the overall roster for the Miami Dolphins. But there's the tricky part. Knox is set to make over $14 million in the upcoming season, so there would have to be some restructuring that's done by Chris Grier and the Miami Dolphins as far as how you could make that work contractually and how he could become a part of the Dolphins, not to mention the fact that it's also an in-division trade. But anytime there's a prominent tight end available on the trade market, I like the idea of discussing the potential of bringing that tight end in. And speaking of ideas I like, how about buying yourself a Miami Dolphins jersey using our special Chat Sports link that we'll put in the description of today's video in the comments. And wow, that aqua looks good. Maybe you missed Valentine's Day. Not to worry. Use our Chat Sports link on Fanatics and get one of these awesome Miami Dolphins jerseys. your significant other will love it. And it won't matter that you were a little late on Valentine's Day because perfection is worth waiting for. And this Dolphins jersey from Fanatics, whether it be Jalen Ramsey or maybe a little throwback to a Tagovailoa, hot, heating up. But either way, get yourself one of these at chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. We'll put that link in the comments as well. One click and you're there. The possibilities are endless, my friend. You got to check it out. And thanks to Fanatics for helping make today's show possible. Now, continuing on, this, and last but certainly not least, this might be the most practical decision for the Miami Dolphins as far as a trade candidate. Looking at the secondary, J.C. Horn for the Carolina Panthers could be available via the trade market because he's entering his final year of that rookie contract and would be a little bit more affordable option for Chris Grier and the front office. And I know you're sick of hearing about the salary cap, but it's important to utilize the salary cap for your benefit when working through some trades, and a guy entering his final year of his rookie deal would fit into that category of maximum productivity without that expensive price tag. And J.C. Horn kind of an anomaly here, an interesting case study because he's only coming off a season in which he played 6 games. And in those 6 games, he played relatively well, especially according to Pro Football Focus, but that's not the end-all be-all. It's just one more benchmark. But an 83 grade is among the premier cornerbacks in the National Football League. But again, that sample size of just 6 games doesn't necessarily allow you to be all in based on the production on the field because of just the 6 games played. But you look at where he might fit in, Horn that is, with this Dolphins cornerback depth chart, and obviously Jalen Ramsey, undisputed cornerback number 1. But if you follow Dolphins Today, I'm not the biggest fan of Xavier Howard. I think he's lost a step, and he's one of the highest paid players on the Dolphins roster. So I anticipate him being at the top of the list of Chris Grier's cut candidates because of how much money he makes and because of the lack of productivity. And maybe that's a little bit too harsh, but I just think Xavier Howard's had a great career, 8 years in the NFL, but has lost a step a little bit. Caterco, who at times showed some vulnerability in coverage. He showed that he can blitz as an effective nickel corner, but I don't think he's a guy that you're hanging your hat on. And we don't know what Cam Smith can do because he very rarely played. Ethan Bonner was signed to a futures contract. I don't think we're going to see Eli Apple back in the Dolphins uniform. And speaking of guys that have lost a step, he certainly would fit that mold, Eli Apple that is. So I'm excited about the potential of Cam Smith because I think he'll get a chance to actually play under new defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver. But trading for J.C. Horn is so appealing because he's a guy that can make an impact on the field. He's a guy that comes at a very affordable price tag, and he's a guy that the asking price might not be overwhelming for. So, of the 3 that I've listed for you, I want your voice to be heard on today's program. So let me know down in the comments. Pick a trade candidate, whether you want to go Laken Tomlinson on the offensive line, Dawson Knox as a tight end, or J.C. Horn, the cornerback. Let me know by typing LT for Laken Tomlinson, Dawson Knox DK, or JH for J.C. Horn. And you probably already knew this by the tone of my voice and by the delivery of the entire show, but I love the idea of J.C. Horn. It makes a lot of sense financially. It makes a lot of sense with the skills that he can provide at the cornerback position. A fresh start for him with a team that's, in all indications, expected to be a contender, unlike Carolina, who you could probably make the case is in the worst state in all of the National Football League for a lot of different reasons. But get him out of Carolina and into Miami. And what might that look like when you think of the capital that the Dolphins have to use in the trade market? It might be as simple as just a 4th-round pick. Now, I know the Dolphins draft capital is exceptionally precious because there's no pick for the Dolphins in the 3rd or 4th round, so they would have to find a way to get creative to obtain a 4th-round pick to trade for. And then moving on with J.C. Horn could be a guy that you send either a couple of draft picks or maybe a 5th-round draft pick, but I think it would take something a little bit better. So Chris Grier and company could get to work by trading some of the Dolphins draft capital. Let me know down in the comments, what do you give this trade proposal? A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know down in the comments. Let your voice be heard. Do you like the idea of trading for J.C. Horn? Now, other trade assets to maybe have a conversation about I don't think anyone's going to necessarily want Xavier Howard, even though he still has a couple of years on his deal. It's a very expensive deal. He's one of the highest paid players for the Miami Dolphins, but maybe a team would entertain the idea of bringing a proven veteran and former All-Pro back to the lineup for the Miami Dolphins. Interesting discussion to be had there. Channing Tindall just really hasn't found a way to make a mark for the Dolphins yet. So maybe another team would be interested in taking a flyer on a guy that at one time the Dolphins held high regards for, but I don't think that necessarily moves the needle for a lot of teams. Emmanuel Ogbah, the Dolphins saw a lot in him to offer him one of the most lucrative contracts. In fact, he's the highest paid player for the Dolphins base salary-wise. So he could be a guy that you really intrigue some teams with, although with that big of a deal, maybe not. And this one's very difficult because I don't want to trade Jalen Waddle by any means, but I think if you look at the fact that he's still on his rookie contract, obviously he's a proven commodity in the National Football League. He's a dynamic playmaking wide receiver, and I think he and Tyreek Hill represent the best 1-2 duo as far as wide receivers are concerned in the NFL. And maybe you make a huge splash and obtain all kinds of draft capital by trading Jalen Waddle away and picking up a wide receiver. Again, these are just ideas you're thinking out loud here. I don't necessarily love them, but I think when it comes down to it, the draft picks are probably the most feasible thing to trade for the Dolphins. And even though they don't have a pick in rounds 3 or 4, I think you could make the case that there's draft capital to be traded. You got those 2 6th-round picks as well as the 5th-round pick, and figure out a way to shuffle around those draft picks in order to obtain some trade capital for the Dolphins moving forward. Now, looking at that wide receiver depth chart, you got a guy like Braxton Berrios who likely won't be back with the Dolphins. I'm just going to go ahead and call that now. Same with River Craycraft. Eric Ezukama is a question mark given the neck injury as well. And so these are all players with a lot of question marks at the wide receiver position for the Dolphins, which is why I suggested drafting a wide receiver or making a trade to bring in some pass-catching targets for Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins offense. And as harsh as it might sound, I don't think anybody's going to want Xavier Howard. I don't think anyone's going to want Emmanuel Ogbah or Channing Tindall for that matter. And so you're left with really, it takes 2 to tango, they always say. So you're left with either the draft picks or Jalen Waddle, and I don't think either Dolphins fans, the Dolphins front office, or management as a whole want to see Jalen Waddle go. Let me hear you. Let me hear you. Put your comments down in the comments. The percent chance the Dolphins make a trade this offseason. 1 through 100, what percent chance do you give it? Scale it for me in the comments. 1 through 100. Let me know and let your voice be heard. All right, help us continue to grow. We want to reach 58,000 subscribers by the end of February. Can we do it? We're getting closer and closer to 56,000. We got to get to 58,000. So if you know a Dolphins fan, let them know, hey, free Dolphins content every single day. Subscribe to the channel. Give it a trial basis. If you try it for a week and you don't absolutely love it, it'll break my heart, but you can unsubscribe. Nobody is holding you to it. We just would love you to be a part of the Dolphins Today family, the Dolphins Today community. And as somebody that's subscribed, you know it's the best Dolphins content out there. That's why you subscribe on Dolphins Today.
There we go.
There he is. There he is. Larry Thompson's in the chat. A lot of questions coming in if you think Tua is the guy.
The only thing I got from that is you really want to trade Jalen Waddle bad.
No.
You're a big trade Jalen Waddle guy. Get rid of the team's favorite.
No.
Get him out of here. We don't need good players.
I love the Penguin.
We don't need good players.
I love the Penguin. I love Jalen Waddle. And then how could Frank from Barstool Waddle if they trade Jalen Waddle?
I do think it's interesting. You said recouping 3rd and 4th round picks. It might be a situation where that's what you get for X, a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
Because
I think more than anything, if somebody's willing to take on the contract of Xavier Howard and Emmanuel Ogbah, because I really anticipate both those guys getting cut. So if you can get anything from those guys, hell, 6th or 7th round pick.
Ogbah, I feel like you could get a 6th round pick for.
Yeah. It was so interesting with Agba. He signs the contract and then just goes in the tank. Didn't do anything. Now, some of that is the system Vic Fangio played. So if you want to sell me on, new defensive coordinator, new opportunity for Emmanuel Agba, I think there's a conversation to be had there. Why not?
Yeah. I think, obviously, you don't want to trade Jalen Waddle.
No.
Tyreek Hill. Who would want X from Sherry May? It's a tough call. Somebody who needs some corner depth.
Yeah. Honestly,
I would say the Eagles, but X didn't really have a great year with Fangio, in my opinion.
Yeah. I would say this, though. There's a couple of contending teams that their weakness was in the secondary. You look at the NFC Championship, the Detroit Lions, really stacked team defensively up front, but not in the secondary. There's questions of whether or not CJ will be back.
If the Chiefs lose L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah.
He could very well be on his way out to get a major contract.
Major.
I don't. If they're able to keep Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed, I'm gonna actually just run my head through a wall. But I don't know.
Robert Graham makes a great point here. We could use X, and he could take a pay cut, and that's what a lot of the talking heads, a lot of the beat writers, and people that cover the team like myself have suggested. But X was even asked about taking a pay cut, and he scoffed at the idea and said, would you take a pay cut? And it's a little bit infuriating for me because you think of the performance on the field, it should match your pay cut, or it should match your pay. So if you didn't perform particularly well, I don't think it's out of the question to suggest a pay cut, especially if it could help the organization as much as Xavier Howard taking a pay cut could help the Dolphins.
Yeah, but at the same time, I agree with X there. I'm sorry.
Nah, man. I need
Take everything out of it,
Plus, yeah. I think he has 6 kids that he has to support. So, with several different women.
I'm with X. You'd be dumb as a player to be like, oh yeah, of course.
The team.
Of course, I'll take less money. Yeah, duh.
And some of it might even just be restructuring. I'm not a financial genius. I did pass both fundamental accounting and managerial accounting in college, but not ready to balance the books for the Dolphins yet.
Sick flex.
Yeah, right, no doubt. But I don't know how you could restructure his deal and what that would look like, but I do know it would help the Dolphins.
August, I see your question. You can use #Dolphins to ask whatever you want because we're about to do a Dolphins Today mailbag.
It's an Ask Anything mailbag. Ask Anything mailbag.
You can literally ask me anything, and I'm obligated to answer very truthfully. Those are the rules.
Okay, this might be a stupid question. Do you have Riz? What's Riz?
You don't know what Riz is? Oh, my goodness. I'm working with a bunch of old guys here in the office.
Yeah, I am. Everybody says I'm the old guy here.
Yeah, you big pour-over coffee guy.
Yeah. Riz up a person? I just Googled it. Is this some kind of Urban Dictionary thing that I'm going to go home and everyone's going to make fun of me that I said Riz on the air?
Yeah, I think it's up there with the waffle.
No, I actually know that one.
All right. Let's get into this Dolphins Today mailbag, and let's see if Riepma has the Riz.
Does he have the Riz? It's an Ask Anything mailbag. It's an Ask Anything mailbag on Dolphins Today. Thanks for dialing it up. Happy to be with you. Fired up to be with you, in fact, and fired up to answer your questions. So without further ado, let's do it. Recording this on a Wednesday, so if anything goes in one ear and out the other, just scroll on through if anything's outdated. Here we go from Tim B. A $10 super chat. Put me on the helmet. We've got you covered there, Tim B. Right on the Dolphins helmet. How can we convince Dolphins owner to go permanently to the throwback jerseys? We were 9-3 when we wore them, plus it was voted number one style in the NFL. Look, I agree 100%, Tim B. You have my word. I will give it everything I have. I will talk to Mr. Ross. I will talk to Chris Grier. I will talk to whoever needs to, or whoever will listen to get the Dolphins to wear the throwback jerseys at all times. They're more ferocious. They look better. I believe it was Chris Sims and Mike Florio said the Dolphins would go undefeated if they wore the throwback jerseys. I completely agree. And this past season, when the Dolphins wore the throwback jerseys, they wore them against the Cowboys. What happened? They won. Exactly. They wore them against the Patriots. What happened? They won. I'm all in on the Dolphins throwback uniforms. I think they're amazing. Best uniforms in football. I'm with you, Tim B, and you've got my word. I'm going to do whatever I can to make it a reality. From Anthony Manzano, using the hashtag Dolphins, can you see there being a scenario where Miami trades down and goes defensive the first 3 rounds, getting linebacker, safety, and corner? I could see that as a potential scenario, but I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face. I think this year's draft class is so loaded at the offensive line position, whether it be tackle, centers, guards. I think you can rebuild your Dolphins offensive line through the draft this year. And I wouldn't want to mortgage the future of the Dolphins offensive line and miss out on the opportunity to draft some of these game-changing type players on the offensive line simply to rebuild a position of need like the linebacker position, like the safety position, or in the secondary at corner. Because there's still some question marks about some of the Dolphins' current corners, like Cam Smith. We don't know. This guy was a second-round pick last year, and Vic Fangio never gave him a chance. So maybe he'll burst onto the scene as a sophomore in the NFL and provide some much-needed depth to the cornerback position. Jerome Baker had a good season, but he is a free agent, so I understand your concern, your questions at the linebacker position. I like what David Long can do for the Dolphins from the linebacker position. And so because of where this Dolphins offensive line is right now and the injuries that they faced, I'm more inclined to say build the Dolphins offensive line back up through the draft and not necessarily forget, but maybe prioritize some of those other positions at a lesser rate than you prioritize the Dolphins offensive line. So I like the idea of going Dolphins offensive line in the first couple of rounds at some point, but still adhering to the fact that you do need to build up defensively through the draft as well. James Anderson uses the hashtag Dolphins. What's the Dolphins' biggest need in the draft? Well, James, great question because we just discussed it. It's offensive line. Now, I will say this, the great thing about the draft and the great thing about the Dolphins team as a whole is there are multiple needs, right? We talked about the offensive line as probably the most pressing need. And the linebacker position, whether it be inside or at the edge position, it'd be interesting to see how new defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver wants to utilize his talent to the best of his ability. And when you look at what Vic Fangio did last year, edge play was prominently important for the Dolphins with Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Andrew Van Ginkel. All 3 of those guys had breakout years, and with all 3 of them suffering season-ending injuries, it's important to add some depth at the edge position. Wide receiver is important because, yes, Tua had his best season of his career, but over 60% of the receiving production was done by Tyreek Hill and or Jalen Waddle. Defensive line, awesome job all season long by Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer. Christian Wilkins is a free agent, and the rest of the defensive line lacked a lot of depth. Same with cornerback. You got Jalen Ramsey, but after that, a lot of question marks. I told you what I think, but you got to let me know what you think. What's the Dolphins' biggest need in this year's draft? Let me know down in the comments, whether it be position, whether it be player type, because a lot of people are saying this Dolphins team needs some grit. They need some anger. They need some tenacity. They need to play with an edge. They didn't have that last year. So let me know what's the Dolphins' biggest need to address in this year's draft. Great question from Sherry May here. I keep hearing AVG is going to Philly. Any truth to that? Is it money or what? Simple, short answer, yes, it is money because he is a pending free agent. And long answer is not necessarily going to Philadelphia, but I think there's a lot of dots that connect the potential of AVG going to Philly. Not at all a done deal, but Philly, a team that has some money to spend, a team that's been proven to invest in the defensive side of the football with an aggressive front office, combined with the fact that AVG had a breakout year under Vic Fangio. It makes a lot of sense. Drew Rosenhoff is AVG's agent and a very prominent agent in the NFL. You know he's going to get the maximum amount of money for his client. And if that's not in Miami, I don't think it's apparent yet that AVG has any kind of hometown discount or loyalty to the Dolphins, because I think when you have a breakout year and you're one of the top 10 edge players in the NFL, you should go get your bag. And if AVG does that in Philadelphia, unfortunately for the Dolphins and Dolphins fans, that's the reality of the NFL, the business that it is, and what could happen in free agency. But as I said in a previous video on my most important free agents, I've got AVG as the most important Dolphins free agent to resign. Great question here from Every Noodle. Would Johnny Wilson be a fun pick for Miami? Indeed, he would. That's the wide receiver out of Florida State, big body guy. And it's interesting because this draft class is loaded with wide receivers and big wide receivers for that. In my mock draft, I had the Dolphins taking Brian Thomas Jr., who's another big body receiver out of LSU. Keon Coleman's a guy that I think of that could go late first round, early second round, depending on what the market dictates as far as what other teams' mindset is in the draft if they want to go at the luxury position like a wide receiver. And it's interesting because the Dolphins as a team have great wide receivers. They just don't have any depth. So do you try to take that home run swing at a first round wide receiver to pair with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? Or do you look for maybe more of a role player that could fill the void of that number 3 receiver and provide some production there that the Dolphins just didn't have? I think it's a great question, and Johnny Wilson certainly is an intriguing prospect out of Florida State, but I think only time will tell on whether or not the Dolphins will pursue him. But to your original question, Every Noodle, yes, that would be a fun pick. Marcos Noah, should the Dolphins draft Cayman Kitchens? That's a good... Cameron Kitchens out of Miami. My fault there. Yes. When you look at the production from the Miami Hurricanes as a team, and you can't just pin this on one player, it's not necessarily a guy that I've had identified on my draft board of how he could help the Dolphins, but if there's value to be had there in later rounds, and Chris Grier in the front office deem him as a guy that would be a steal, because I think as the draft progresses, you start to look for that combination of need as well as value. And if Cameron Kitchens fits that mold, I wouldn't have any hesitations. I don't think there's any kind of red flag that would prevent me, if I'm the Dolphins, from drafting him, especially with the hometown connection there, hometown pick, stay in Miami, that sort of thing. It's been proven that he can thrive for the Hurricanes. Let him thrive for the Dolphins. Sure, I like that idea. Now, all right, I want to thank today's sponsor for making today's show possible, the Game Time app, the only ticketing app you'll ever need, because it's simply the best way to buy tickets to a live event. And as we enter the end of the winter and into spring, we got basketball season. Go check out the Miami Heat. We've got hockey season. Go see a Florida Panthers game. And baseball is on the horizon. Any live event, you got to download the Game Time app and use it, because it is far and away the best and most easiest way to get your tickets. Very easy to use app. You get the HD picture as well, so you know exactly where you're going to be sitting. No deception. And oh, by the way, tons of flexible payment options as well. You got to love it. And because we love you and we care about you, we're giving you $20 off when you use that promo code FINSCHAT for new users. Terms do apply, but download the Game Time app. Use promo code FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT. That's promo code FINSCHAT when you download the Game Time app. Simply the best app to use when buying your tickets for live events. And it's the lowest price guaranteed. How about that? You can't beat it. Oh, our close friend Patrick Starr. If a team offered you 2 first-round picks, would you trade Tua? No. And that's it. Next one. No, I will say this. The idea of trading Tua for 2 first-round picks, certainly, that's appealing. It's attractive. The notion of bringing in 2 first-round picks in addition to already having 3 picks on the first day would be incredible. But what does that give up? The future of your franchise, the franchise quarterback. And I thought an interesting comment about Tua in general was the fact that he's deemed, in my opinion, as a franchise quarterback. And franchise quarterbacks are hard to find. A lot of teams don't have franchise quarterbacks. And is he going to go down as an all-time great and the greatest quarterback to ever play? Probably not. But does he give you the ability and the best chance to achieve your goals and get you to the Super Bowl? I believe so. And at the very least, Tua eliminates any questions at the quarterback position and puts you in a position as an offense to have a prolific offense like they showed at times last year, while also allowing to build around Tua on both the offense and the defense. So it's appealing, it's attractive, it's a fun idea, Patrick Star, but I still say no. Let me know what you say. Would you trade for Tua for 2 first-rounders? Let me know down in the comments, yes or no. I know a lot of Tua haters are out there that are going to type yes, they would trade Tua, but it's a no for me. Another one coming in from Dr. Dummy Beta. Any receivers we could sign in free agency? P.S. Happy birthday. Yeah, happy birthday. Let's go, Dr. Dummy Beta. Happy birthday to you. Now, Curtis Samuel is a wide receiver to keep your eye on from the Washington Commanders, and it wouldn't necessarily be an overly expensive free agent signing because the production hasn't necessarily been there, but he's a guy that can be dynamic with the football in his hands at both the line of scrimmage and as a pass catcher. And I'm certain, don't take this that I'm comparing him to Deebo Samuel. Please don't take it that way. But as far as the versatility from the wide receiver position, it's like Deebo Samuel where he can be a deep ball threat, he can be an intermediate threat catching the ball, and also a threat on screen passes, jet sweeps, that sort of thing with the football around. With the football in his hands, he can be dangerous. So Curtis Samuel, a name to keep your eye on. Brian35 asked, do you see the Dolphins drafting 2 offensive linemen in rounds 1 and 2 to address the O-line and shore it up? Brian, I would not be shocked one bit. Certainly at least one in the first 2 rounds, because as it stands right now, the Dolphins don't have a 3rd or a 4th round pick. And in our mock draft from earlier, we had Christian Haynes in the 2nd round. Pro Football Focus gave that draft pick an A-. So if he's available at 55 overall, Christian Haynes out of UConn's a name I like. And I do like the possibility of drafting an offensive line in the 1st round as well. We've talked about Troy Fatanu. We talked about Jackson Powers Johnson. Lots of different offensive linemen in this draft that you could draft at the top of the 1st round there and into the 2nd round for the Dolphins. So I would not be shocked whatsoever. All right, Mark Smith asks, are you going to jump on a trade back to get extra 3 to 5 picks since the needs are widespread? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow, some way, Chris Grier in the front office implement and construct a trade that would provide some more draft capital, because Chris Grier in the past, his track record shows us that he's willing to make trades, but in the past they've been big-name trades giving up draft capital, and so this might be the opposite, where you trade a known commodity for draft picks. Emmanuel Ogbah is the guy that comes to mind, Xavier Howard, although both of them have big contracts, so it might be difficult to trade. And as we've discussed, it would absolutely kill me and be so painful. But maybe Jalen Waddle fits that mold as well. A guy that you could get a ton back for if you did decide to trade him. But I love Jalen Waddle too much to see him go. So I'm not advocating for that. But if you told me tomorrow that this is what the Dolphins did, they traded Jalen Waddle for multiple picks, I wouldn't be shocked. All right, I want to thank everybody for tuning into this edition of Dolphins Today and Ask Anything Mailbag, and remind you to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily Dolphins content each and every day. There's nothing like it, covering the aqua and orange from every single angle. It's always a pleasure and an honor to do that. Fired up to do it, to be the voice of the Miami Dolphins and Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, because we love you and we care about you here. And thanks so much for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. And we love you and we care about you here on Dolphins Today. Woo! Would you trade Tua for 2 first-rounders?
What if I told you 3?
Oh, then I might do it. I might do it, Chugs.
Really?
Yeah, would you? If you're the Dolphins, would you do that?
Trade 3 first-rounders?
No, except 3 first-rounders to trade Tua.
Yeah. It depends. If I can get 2 of those if somebody has 2 first-round picks in the draft this year, like if it's like the Cardinals trading their 2 first-round picks that they got, theirs, and they have the Texans, if you can get something like that, and then an extra first-round pick, yes, I would consider that. If it's this year, next year, and the year after, then I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Because
that's like punting on this window if it's that.
Yes.
It's essentially saying a rebuild. And I hate that word because I don't think a roster that has Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, the list goes, Raheem Mostert, like you're not rebuilding with that roster. And so I think a trade, or not even a trade, but there's talks of cutting Tua and signing Kirk Cousins, something like that, that still keeps you in the win now mode. Win now. In the window of the win now, I'm still inclined for the Dolphins to be win now, whatever that looks like. Winna, chicken dinner.
All right, we're about to head out, but if you haven't already hit that sub button, we're getting on our way to 58K by the
That's right. Are you losing internet? I think I'm losing internet. Don't know.
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Want to thank everybody that participated today. We got 2 people in the running to win this awesome Dolphins helmet. And you know what, Chugs? It's because we love you and we care about you that you've even got an opportunity to win this. The only one that has a chance so far to win the Dan Marino bobblehead is Kristen Reinhardt. So shout out to Kristen Reinhardt, and we will keep you in touch as we continue on with our off-season promos and giveaways. Chugs, any final words for the people?
Live, laugh, love.
Happy Valentine's Day! Download the Game Time app. We love you. We care about you. And we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today!